What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to proxy Reaper. I'm going to teach you both how to execute and defend it. So first I'm going to be proxy Reapering this poor AI, and then I'm going to play some games against proxy Reaper. And I'm going to be showing you guys how to defend it with different openings and stuff. For now I'm going to execute it. So first, very simple, just to do the build, you send one SCV instantly. Then an important part is that you make your depot at 13 instead of 14, and then you instantly send another SCV. So it looks like this. The reason you make your depot at 13 instead of 14 is so you can make your barracks on time with the minerals, else you would have to wait. As you can see, the depot wouldn't finish in time, and now it works just like that. So you make a 14 barracks, you get a 14 gas afterwards, and then you make another barracks at 14. Keep in mind, this is the regular Proxy Reaper version, so this is just a Proxy 2x. There's also a very extreme version out there, which is a Proxy 3x, but that's not what we're going to be doing here. So after you get your second barracks down, you make 2 more SCVs. This is always the same no matter what with this build order. And then I'm going to go through the adaptations you have to make with each opener you scout from the opponent. So you make 2 more SCVs, then you're going to make an orbital at 16, second gas at 17. It's very important to not mess this order up. You actually need your gas in time, because you might have to make a fast factory to defend against the Liberator. Alright, so the first adaptation is going to be this SCV over here. If you, a lot of times, once again, I say this in every video, you have to adapt to your own MMR. But usually when people SCV scout, it means they're doing a Reaper expand. Which means you have complete freedom with your units, right? You can go in whenever you want. And this SCV, you have to choose to either send it back or pressure. Now, that just depends on your style. So personally, I like to pressure right away from the start. So to give me the Reaper advantage in a 1v1, I like to keep this SCV and send it with my Reaper. If you're more like a guy that wants to surprise the opponent and just go with 2 Reapers, then you can just send this one back and just wait for 2 Reapers. But in my case, I'm going to send this one. You always pretend that it's a normal scout. If they pay attention, they won't fall for it. But just saying. So you go in with the Reaper. You see a Marine from the AI. And this is when you make important adaptations, because it matters a lot for the way you use the Reaper specifically. So pay attention to this. If you see a Reaper expand, and you can see this by you'll most likely be SCV scouted, and they will start a late factory and probably bunkers. If it's a Reaper expand, you have complete freedom over using your Reapers. You can keep pressuring non-stop. You're always going to have the unit advantage. You're just going to have to micro well against SCVs. If you kill their first Reaper, the game is over. However, never always avoid to lose the first Reaper. If it's starting to look bad, just run away. You're not too pressured to do damage. Now, a harder part is when you play against 2 gas expand. This is the hardest build order you can play against. And you need to know when you have the Reaper advantage. If you play against double gas, you're going to have 2 Reapers before the opponent has 2 units. So that's when you go in. But by the time you have 3 Reapers, your opponent's also going to have 3 units. So this is not a timing you can hit. Most of the time you go with 2 Reapers. You try to kill their first Reaper. If it doesn't work, you back off. And you come again with 4, because that's the timing you have. What's really cool with Proxy Reaper is that it doesn't really have any hardcore builder counters, I think. Like, in most cases, you can actually macro out of it. As double gas as well. You have a lot of different timings you can hit. You just need to keep paying attention to how to use your Reapers. Now, another build you can face, these are also the builds I'm going to be showing from the defensive side, by the way, is you can play against 2x Reaper. Now, a lot of people actually think this is a builder counter, but it's not completely true. The disadvantage of 2x Reaper defensively is that they have a late second gas usually. So even if they expand, you're gonna have you're always slightly ahead in Reaper production. So even though they have the same amount, yours finish a bit earlier. So they always need to be careful, because you have like a quarter more of a Reaper, if that makes sense. So yeah, if you play against 2 Rex Reaper, there's always a big chance still that you manage to win. If you get 1 Reaper kill or you hit it right time, you're still gonna win the game most likely. So another thing to make sure, you need to make a depot at home at about 20 supply, but you should wait for your Reaper to go in to scout that they're not proxy Reapering, because if they proxy Reaper, you don't want to make the depot, so you have extra resources, pretty much. So here goes the depot. Then, paying attention to the Reaper count, right now I have 3 on the way in total. After your 4th Reaper, which is this one, you're gonna have to make the factory. It's very easy to be microing like this, you know, it gets tense, you're microing like, oh no, what do I do? But don't queue too much and actually make your factory after the 4th Reaper. A lot of time if you play against double gas, they might proxy a starport or something like this, and you just need to have this factory in time to defend the proxy liberator. And as you can see, I have like a 4-second delay on one of my Reapers, but at this point it's not the biggest deal. Either you're already doing damage or you have to go back. It's not like the 5 Reaper timing is a thing. Like I said before, you have the 2 Reaper timing and the 4 Reaper timing. And yeah, this is a very... I don't know, it's not too difficult to execute. It's very micro based. Strategically it's not that hard. Just remember those timings you have. And yeah, if you don't scout anything, I would recommend to just get a tech lab instantly on the factory. If you know that there's no proxy starport, imagine your opponent went for a Reaper expand and they simply didn't have time to get a starport, you can actually make a Hellion because it reinforces your push. It's also important to use the factory well. For example, a lot of time the proxy 2x Reaper fails and it feels like you're behind. But a lot of time you have the gas advantage. Like, you will actually have more Reapers than the other guy, and then you can add Hellions as well. It's still easy to snowball. Like, there's so many follow-ups you can do with the Proxy Reaper. If you don't need to make the Cyclone, you can actually just make a Hellion and a Starport instead, and still manage to snowball and win the fight. So in this case, this guy doesn't even have a factory, so I'm gonna rally a Hellion. Also, I would generally recommend to expand before the Starport. That's probably the most economic and best way to do it. And then a lot of times, as you can see, your Hellion is gonna arrive. And I don't know, your opponent's gonna have, let's say, 3 Hellions, 3 Reapers. Sometimes they make Marines, let's say they have 6 Marines, 3 Hellions. You still have a really big army here at 7 Reapers, 1 Hellion, you can still snowball it. And then you usually transition. Macfield is very popular after Reaper, Proxy Reaper. It's not necessary or anything. You can also just make tanks and Vikings and go for a real macro game. So yeah, I'm not gonna go into the follow-up anymore. This is what it's supposed to look like. You get your CC down. It's very important in Proxy Reaper that you actually keep going and know the follow-ups that I said. Because if you don't know these follow-ups, the game could actually be over just by them defending your initial wave, which is really not what Proxy Reaper is about. Alright, so this is gonna be the first part of the tutorial. Up next, I'm gonna show you guys how to defend Proxy Reaper with all different kinds of builds. Alright, so first up, I'm gonna do the most standard build. I'm just gonna do a Reaper expand. I'm gonna show you guys how to scout properly while we're at it. And yeah, we're gonna show you guys how to defend Proxy Reaper. In general, Reaper expand is definitely the weakest build against it, of course, out of all the builds you can do, I think. But at the same time, it's the best economic build we have. So it's definitely a build that you should know how to do. So the most normal version, of course, is the gas first, 15 gas. I'm kind of a weirdo in this regard. I actually like to play barracks first, Reaper expand, but it's not that common. So I'm just gonna go for a gas first Reaper expand for you guys. 16 barracks. Then if you play on a big map, you always have to scout with this SCV. Exactly. You're ready the 16th one. If you play on a small map, let's say Zen, I mean Reaper expand is not that great on Zen, but you know, it's a small map, you can rally this one, the 17th. But on a big map like this, you definitely want to go ahead and rally the 16th SCV to scout, because you need to be able to react in time to what you see. And you'll see that I arrived there just in time. I won't be putting my command center down. Now, one important thing is that you have to differentiate between... I don't know how common this is for you guys, but I sometimes face fake proxy. So you come into the base and you don't see anything. So you actually have to scout deep. I see there's very little SCVs. So we can go ahead and make 2 bunkers. That's what you need to do. Now, always try to wall off if you can. Important point is that you have to pull 2 SCVs with your first Reaper, because you really can't afford to lose it. So his Reaper is going to be about the same time as mine. It's a little bit faster. Just to make sure, you have to pull SCV to the cliff.
Not enough minerals.
Now, don't take any risk by chasing the Reaper, because his second one is going to pop relatively soon. Now the bunker finishes in time. Also get your second gas as well. Mine was a little bit late here. Try to get it a little bit faster. Now you want to be saturating your bunkers. That was almost pretty bad. Should have just rallied the Marine into this bunker. Don't try to overcommit to things like this. Like if he wants to attack my depot, he can attack my depot. I can micro a bit, of course. So one thing I actually do differently from others is that I would recommend not to make a starport on one base. I feel like it takes away the advantage you have. The only advantage you have in this case is that you are richer than him, right? His factory is late, but he actually has more gas than me. He's gonna have Reapers. If I were to make a starport right now, I feel like you kind of throw away a lead that's not that hard to defend. So what I like to do is, in this case I didn't need any more gas. I'm gonna throw down the starport. I like to keep making Hellions. Important to note, this is actually important, people don't think about it. A Hellion actually makes a lot faster than a Reaper. So if you start producing Hellions, it's not like he's gonna out-unit you that hard anymore. Now I have enough units to blow this away, so this is not that big of a deal. And then yeah, now I would say my starport is probably still faster than his, but I have my CC actually up. Now I just need to make sure to not throw my units away for nothing. Like there's no reason to go down here and like these Reapers actually two-shot my Hellions, the amount of Reapers he has. And then you can set yourself up nicely. To be extra safe, you can make a Cyclone here. Let's just do it. Get a tech level on a starport. And now we're ahead. And it's simple like that. You can scout again with the Reaper. I actually lost my scouting SCV. Try to not lose it so you can check on his CC timing and things like that. And don't forget that you can also... Yeah, I completely lost my train of thought there. I'm sorry about that. I had no idea what I wanted to say. Or yeah, you can also just send the Reaper here if you keep it alive. You see, my CC is faster than him. And my starport's faster. You can go salvage these bunkers. And now you're just in a great spot. You send these down. Take the gas. And then you get your third pretty soon. Raven is almost done. You can see that we're in a great spot. And voila. And also, like I said, in the defense or in the aggressive part of the tutorial, he might be making Hellions, so that's why you have to make sure to be safe until you get at least that Cyclone out. Right. That's gonna be it for this this part. Let's look at his starport. He didn't have a Raven yet. I already had 1.5 Raven. He does have the Reaper still alive, which is a pretty big part. And yeah, as you can see, it's generally up in supply, a lot more units. Got my gas down already. It's just it's like I said before, it's not amazing to have a Reaper expand against a 2x Reaper, but if you do it perfectly like this, you're actually gonna be a bit ahead still. So for this game, I'm gonna be showing probably the most standard build right now. I'm just gonna do a double gas expand. I feel like a lot of people think the Proxy Reaper is bad against 2 gas expand. I think 2 gas is definitely the best build you can do against it, but it's still very dangerous. So I'm gonna walk you guys through what you need to do here. Also gonna show you guys what a standard double gas expand looks like if you don't know what it looks like. Take the gas at 15, just like in the last game. You're gonna start your barracks right after the depot is finished. And then instead of the scout and the expand, you'll be getting a second gas and a factory. Now, technically you can SCV scout with double gas. I wouldn't recommend it because it's already a pretty mineral starved build. If you want to be very safe, if you, I don't know, you're playing a tournament against a guy you know is cheesy, he's probably not as good as you, you can definitely try it out, but for the most part, if you play a double gas expand, you do not scout. Well, I'm also doing the most standard version here, by the way, so I'm gonna show you the most standard gas cut timing as well. So you get your gas is fully maxed out, 3 workers on each gas. And then as soon as you have the factory and the Reaper started, you pull 1 out of each gas. This is, sounds complicated. It's honestly not that complicated in the end. This is all you have to do. See, factory starts, 1 out of each gas. 1 of them makes a depot.
Not enough minerals.
Then the way I like to scout around with this, because even if it's a Proxy Reaper, it could be Proxy Marauder, whatever, you like to scout around a bit, but you need to be very careful. For example, his Reaper is a little bit faster up here than mine, if you were to Proxy Reaper. So make sure you rally it safely. You see there's no Reaper yet, so we can check here real quick. But after that you're already gonna have to start going back for the 2 Reaper timing I mentioned. Now, everything against Proxy Reaper is about this first Reaper. If your Reaper doesn't die, you're okay. So what you do, you pull SCVs. You have to be really careful. You really can't have him like this. He's gonna turn on my Reaper. That's exactly what he needs to do. But all that matters is that 1 Reaper survives. So you can lose 7 SCVs, whatever, how many. As long as you get that, if your first Reaper survives, basically. And then, well, now I just killed this Reaper. But then, just like I said in the aggressive tutorial, that's when you be careful for the 4 Reaper timing. You would have 4 Reapers now if you didn't lose that one. So you have to be careful for a bit. And then as soon as you have 5 units, you have a lot of room to play with. Because like I said, Hellions build faster than Reapers. You're actually gonna have more units than him at this point. So now you can start making an add-on. Like I said before, this is my preference, but I think it's better. I don't think you should make a starport on 1 base to defend it. I think like this is perfectly fine. You're just economically in a way better spot. Now since my 3rd Hellion finished, I have a lot of units. I can start hunting. You have to scout eventually if their barracks are flying or not. Like in this case you can see he's floating the barracks. You always want to find out if they're still making Reapers or not. Because they could be making a Hellion at home. And then their army suddenly becomes stronger than you. But now I see the barracks fly up. It's a lot more safe to actually go out and scout. Of course you're gonna have to keep being careful like I'm doing here. I really appreciate that he's making the good moves. Of course I'm playing against future extremely good Terran player from America. And then once you have the Cyclone, you see the timing works out just nice. You can actually start going out. You get the tank and the Raven going, CC. And now we're finally safe. You see, I feel like a lot of people think it's just over after the start, but it actually takes all those steps to be able to be actually safe and actually be ahead against the Proxy Reaper. Also something that people underestimate about the Proxy Reaper is the macro ability. Like, this build is actually not an all-in at all, it works very well into macro games. So you actually need to make sure not to defend it too wastefully, but you actually need to be on top of your game. See, probably gonna skip this 2nd tank for a 2nd Raven, because Ravens are OP. And then, you know, since we're so safe, you can skip a few Marines to get that 3rd CC down. Oop, I was missing some gas here. And then as soon as we have that 3rd CC down, our setup is complete. And that's gonna be it for this build order. So now we're gonna do the last 3 of the standard builds that I was talking about. We did the Reaper expand, we did the double gas, and now we're gonna do the 2x Reaper expand. A build I like, especially in Korea, it's pretty popular. You'll probably face it on ladder a few times. So once again, I'm gonna show you guys how to do the build properly and then how to react against Proxy Reaper. So an advantage of this build
Not
against
enough
Proxy
minerals.
Reaper is that you go barracks first, which means your Reaper is actually a little bit faster. So like I said before, if you go gas first, his Reaper is actually a little bit faster to arrive to the edge here, and he might catch you off guard.
Additional.
But if you go barracks first, your Reaper is actually just a little bit faster,
Not
and
enough
makes it a
minerals.
little bit easier to
Not
defend
enough
that first
minerals.
Reaper, because the first
Not
Reaper
enough
is the most
minerals.
critical point. Now, this is where you make your second barracks, 17 barracks. With 2x Reaper you also have to scout,
Not enough
but with
minerals.
2x Reaper you scout at 17 a bit
Not
later,
enough minerals.
because you don't have to make a drastic adjustment against Proxy Reaper, and you also don't have to make a drastic adjustment against a Reaper expand, for example. If you see a Reaper expand, you just think, oh nice, and you can start pressuring a bit more, and that's the only difference you make, really. So with this build you can actually just scout at 17 always, you rally at 17 SCV. Then an important part is also you wall off pretty fast with this one. This one goes back to mining. SCV makes the depot over here, and then you send it to the natural to make the command center. Now, there's actually an adaptation you have to make with this build against Proxy Reaper. It sounds, it looks like a good counter, but you still need to make your gas really fast. Normally you get your CC down, but
Command center.
a big disadvantage 2x Reaper has against Proxy Reaper is that you don't have tech, you don't have a lot of gas. As you can see, all my gas is going into the barracks, and I can't really afford a factory or anything like that, and he will be able to. So what happens a lot here, he actually has a little bit more Reapers than me. His production is just like a little bit faster. So it's always very dangerous, you need to be very careful. And you need to make that second gas adjustment so you can actually get that factory faster at some point. As you can see, even with the second gas, I still don't have a lot of gas to make things. So it's really important you can do this so you can actually get tech. As you can see, his factory is already started, and we're not particularly close to it yet.
SCVs are under attack.
Now, try to not leave your base. You can scout around a bit, maybe to see how many units he has. Then after 5 Reapers, I would recommend to get the factory and make a Marine instead. So you actually have gas to spend on the factory instead. But yeah, you always need to be very careful with this build, because as I said, he just has like a quarter more Reaper than you or something like that. So you actually need to pay attention to your units non-stop. And now we're in the Marine phase, it's gonna get a bit safer. We have a bit more units to work with. It might still be difficult if he makes more Reapers. And then once you get Hellions, that's when you're gonna be a bit safer finally. Don't forget that his factory was faster than ours, so it's totally possible for him to actually rally Hellions with this and make it difficult. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a tech lab for the factory with this one, so we can get our own Cyclone somewhat decently timed,
Not enough minerals.
while still being safe for a lot of Reapers. Now, another disadvantage of this build is that you're not allowed to go out to scout for the Reapers, like if the barracks are flying or not, because if he has more Reapers than us, he will just kill our army. So we have to stay inside. It's a very painful process to know that we're ahead economically, but we can't really do anything with it because we have to be locked up here. I think we have a lot of Marines now, so it's probably okay to take the low ground while the Cyclone is building.
Not enough minerals. Add-on complete.
Maybe we can
Not
start the
enough
Raven.
minerals.
Let's see if his
Not
barracks are
enough
still
minerals.
here. We didn't know where they were to begin with, so it's kind of hard to scout. Let's not be too risky. But now the Cyclone is out, I'm starting to feel very confident.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
And also a funny part of this is if you play 2x Reaper, your advantage towards normal builds is that you have an extra barracks, but now we're on the same barracks count,
Not
obviously.
enough minerals.
So that advantage is actually negated by his
Not
build.
enough minerals.
But now we have the Cyclone, our Raven is coming up. Just like with the double gas, we're gonna skip a few Marines, so we can afford a third CC. Of course, we're gonna get our Ravens. Ravens are overpowered. Normally with 2x Reaper, by the way, I only make one Raven, because your air control is gonna be worse than theirs. But in this
Not enough
case,
minerals.
since it's similar, you can actually just continue as normal, get that second Raven. Maybe, no, probably not a third Raven. Sounds a bit too much. Probably take too long and get your tanks out, your third started, fourth gas. And that's gonna be it. So, yeah, I hope I answered all your questions about Proxy Reaper. I hope you're gonna steal some MMR with it and not lose to it again when you have to defend it. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide a lot. Please make sure to check out my other guides. I've been releasing a guide every week on Friday. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And see you guys next time.